Is it safe for me to be walking home in the dark by myself? Am I okay to be left in the caravan by myself? Today is going to be a slightly different conversation from, I suppose, what the channel is about, but in some ways it does still have context, so bear with me. Jason goes away to work, to film, and sometimes just to see family, and recently he went back and was away for 5 days a week, something like that, and someone made a comment along the lines of, I don't know exactly because I wasn't there and Jason's the best at retelling stuff, but it was along the lines of, is Alicia going to be okay by herself in the caravan? And this isn't the first time I've heard this sort of comment. Even when we're in the house, it was, is Alicia going to be okay by herself? And this isn't unusual for most women to hear either. Even just, I was walking back the other night from a friend's house and they sort of said, oh, you can be okay walking back by yourself. And it just got me thinking, why is it that these comments are made? Is it actually due to safety concerns? Or is it some sort of ingrained sexism? I don't want to broaden it out to terms like that, but is it purely down to how women are perceived and how people have been taught to perceive women as not being okay? Or is there actually something in this a bit more? So yeah, it just got me thinking, and I thought I'd do a bit of recording on it because to me this does relate to being here. It is something that maybe should be spoken about, so I'm gonna give it a go. Let me know below in the comments or with the like button or however you'd like to let me know if this sort of content is something you like to see. Thinking about calling it something like noodling niggles, just, you know, something where I'm voicing things that get in my head that just kind of don't like to move. So yeah, let me know below what you think. So yeah, I suppose we'll now try and get into this a bit more. Don't get me wrong, I know when these sort of comments are made, they are made with the best intentions. No one says it out of being vindictive or spite. At the end of the day, if someone's making these comments, they're making them because they truly care about, you know, your safety and your whereabouts. But again, this is what got me thinking, in that, is there any basis to this? So I thought I'd have a quick Google search. Don't get me wrong, this is not in any way intense research that has been thoroughly done or anything else. Literally banged it into Google search just to see what would come up in terms of if there's any premise in women being attacked more than men, or if I should have any concerns for my safety, or, you know, if living in this plywood box is an issue in any way in that regard. So I had a bit of a search. Anything that I'm referencing in this video is going to be linked below in the description box. Please go and check out these things yourself. Don't take what people say on the internet as gospel, because it's not. Go and read this stuff and make your own judgments. But this is some of what I found. So we shall start quite broad and not explicitly about the UK. This study was done in 1992, but was actually about the years from 1976 to 1987. So that's quite a broad range to be taken into account, and is about the difference in rates of fatal violence and victimisation that is gender specific. So, and in that time they took into account 215,273 instances. During this time, 77% of those were against men and only 23 against women. So obviously that shows that the risk is substantially lower for women during this time than it was for men. But what it did show was that the risk of death by a spouse or an acquaintance was higher, and I believe quite substantially higher for women than it was for men. In this study, it showed that women being killed by a stranger was incredibly rare, and twice as many women are likely to be killed by their husband with a gun or a knife or any other weapon than they would be by a stranger. So yes, this study again is talking about the US, so for me not incredibly applicable because I am in the UK, but it does still show the trends, even though this is a couple of decades old, the data itself. But at this time, women were more likely to be attacked by someone they knew, a particular partner, than men who were more likely to be attacked by strangers. Although this data is quite old, it does seem to continue to follow trend through newer information that I found. The next set of data I found was from 2019, so a lot more recently, and about homicide in England and Wales. Over that year, deaths actually increased from prior year, which is not great to hear, by 10% against women. But again, still more likely to be killed by a partner or an ex-partner. That is the most likely cause, and that was 38% of the victims that actually were killed by someone that they were in a relationship with. So 38% is pretty substantial, especially compared to how the other figures are broken down. But for a male, that figure drops to 27%. So that's an 11% difference on who you're likely to be attacked by being shown in that study. And the final one I came across in that is, a bit quite fatalistic, is showing figures from 2020. But this one obviously needs to be taken possibly with a pinch of salt, because obviously 2020 was a strange year for everyone and people were caught inside for long periods of time, so it is going to increase domestic violence in every instance, obviously in theory against men and women, but those sort of attacks by someone that you know are obviously going to rise if you're trapped inside with people, so bear that in mind. And obviously, like I said, go and check any of this information out yourself. Violent attacks, again, more against men than women. If you want to go with sort of overall percentages, 1.3% of women and 2% of men in the country as a whole had some sort of were attacked in a violent manner of some sort during the year of 2020, which doesn't necessarily sound like a high percentage, but when you actually break that down to the numbers of people that's still a very large number of people. And then if we go back to what I was saying about, obviously, regarding being stuck at home, the percentages of people that were attacked by someone they know was 92% for women. So unlike the other two studies, the other two were fatal incidents, whereas this one is just generally about violent attacks. But that just shows how high the percentage is for women to be attacked by someone they know. Yes, again, slight grain of salt, but that is a huge percentage. 92% of the women were attacked by someone they know. Like, just let that sink in. That's pretty crazy, to be honest. And when you then apply that to sentiments of, are you going to be okay walking home by yourself? It's just like, yeah, probably safer than being at home. Just, yeah, let it sink in. Just, it's crazy. But even so, the percentage for men being attacked by someone they know was also quite high, especially compared to the other stats from the other studies, at 79% even for men, which again, this could be a reflection of the circumstances of 2020. Interestingly enough though, there were no stats taken or held in this study to show if the attackee or the attacker, was male or female, which is quite interesting and would be, for me, interesting to know what those figures are. And that, it's always kind of, oh, there's going to be a man jump out at you, and, is that the case, or do women attack women just as much, especially in this potential domestic setting? So that would be interesting to know. In this study, because it was just about violent attacks, not just fatal incidents, it also notes sexual assault, which this again is quite interesting, again considering the circumstances, in that 1 in 10 16 to 24-year-old women were attacked last year. That's just last year alone. 1 in 10 16 to 24-year-old women were attacked sexually. That is just crazy to me. It's just like you hear these sweeping statistics, and it always seems quite sweeping that it's just a general statement, but this is purely in the space of 1 year. 1 in 10 16 to 24-year-old was sexually assaulted. Oh, craziness, the world is crazy. Unfortunately though, no information was given on by who, so it can't be linked directly to the other statistics in terms of, is it more likely to be by someone that the women know, which it wouldn't take much to make that connection, but is it more likely to be by someone they know or a stranger? So that's the kind of quite broader terms, which obviously doesn't necessarily, it does apply to me somewhat, because at the end of the day, I'm a woman, I could be attacked just like anyone else, but it's not directly applicable to, say, my circumstances here in the caravan. So I had, again, another quick search to see if I could find anything, and unfortunately, that data doesn't seem to exist. It seems that primarily it doesn't exist because when caravans are broken into, it doesn't have its own category. It's actually lumped in as being counted as a residential burglary if a caravan is broken into, so it can't be separated out from the home residential break-ins. So yeah, I couldn't find anything specific to do with caravans, caravan break-ins, caravans attacks, etc. So unfortunately all the stats I have to go off are from just generally women or men being attacked. So yeah, I just thought this was something to be thought about in terms of where this feeling of having to say, oh, are you going to be okay, it comes from. And just going off those stats alone, in the whole, am I going to be okay in the caravan by myself? Yes is probably the answer, because yeah, I know a few people here on the site, which is great, but according to this, sorry Jason, glad you're gone. Not that I would ever think Jason would do something like that, it's not the point. But yeah, it seems at the end of the day, you're just as okay walking down the street by yourself or being in the caravan by yourself as you are being at a big group event with lots of people that you know and new people that you're meeting. Do I think this is sort of sexism against women when these comments are made, or is it like an act of chivalry, or is it purely just making sure we're okay? I don't know. At the end of the day, the stats say there's no reason to be making these comments to women any more than you would a man, because that is kind of where my issue lays, in that it just makes me think, would these comments have been made to Jason if he was the one here by himself? I don't know that they would. So yeah, on that aspect, it sounds like they should be. Jason would be just as much as at risk, if not more so. But this thought pattern has to come from somewhere, and whether it's just entrenched in society because women have been thought as being meek and mild and needing to be looked after, is it a good thing? Yeah, sure, in some ways it must benefit us to be thought about and looked after by numerous people. But at the end of the day, is it necessary? Does it need to be said? Should it be said? Should men and women's safety be thought of differently when it comes to these sort of situations? No, probably not. Now, I'm not saying women don't get attacked. Of course they do. But as do men. If you're fearful for your safety, a wife's safety, a partner's safety, a friend's safety, your daughter's safety, you know what? Don't post all over Facebook about, oh, people shouldn't be attacked. That isn't going to change anything. But what might is educating them. Educate them on how to look after themselves. Self-defense. Teach them how to get out of tricky situations. Teach them the confidence they need. But don't scare them. It's going to do no one any good to be scared to go out walking at night. It's not going to do anything. Teach them confidence, teach them skills. So, hey, this is just something that gets, one of those things that gets trapped in my head and gets noodled around. So, yeah, let me know if you thought any of that was interesting, or what your thoughts are on it, whether it changes your viewpoints on how people, and maybe even your children, should be thought about and spoken to when it comes to their safety about being out on their own. Let me know. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you'd like more of this sort of content, just to hear some of the rubbish that goes through the mind palace that is me. So, yeah. Thanks for sticking around if you made it this long, and I'll speak to you later. Am I okay to be left in the caravan by myself?
I don't know how to... Well done.
You enjoy the treats?
Sit. High five. No, 5, not 10. Sit.
You're my bodyguard. Yeah. You can look after me. Yeah.